So we talked about some of the mechanical aspects. What about things like ordinances, your neighbors?
And it's a big one with wind power. You'll want to talk to your county planner, find out what they need, what they expect. You may require a zoning variance, and that will make a wind turbine twice as expensive. If you are required to get a zoning ordinance, you may expect to spend about $3,000 to do that. Tower height is often a restriction. There are allowable exceptions sometimes in your, it varies completely by municipality. Everybody in the state and even within a given county may have different ordinances. If you're in a planned development or a housing development, they may have their own limits.
What about neighbors?
Neighbors, good neighbor relations are essential. And the best way to get the neighbors on your side is to approach them with a good attitude and try and involve them in the project. Say, I think it would be really neat to put one of these up. Would you be interested in helping me do it? Because then in some way they have ownership of it. It becomes their project as well as yours. And if you get people excited about things and they feel they have a say and you approach them and ask them about their concerns and are willing to work with them, most people in Wyoming are terrific to deal with. Probably the worst way to go about it is to have a chip on your shoulder and say, this is my property, I'll do whatever I want, and you can't stop me. Because then the lines get drawn and everybody gets their backs up. And a wind turbine is nothing to have bad neighbor relations over. Go with solar panels instead if it's going to go that direction. But yeah, bring your neighbors on board, help them see that it could be their wind turbine in a way as well, and then they'll feel a sense of pride when they look at it instead of resentment. And that's a good approach to neighbor relations, I think, with wind power.
You talked a little bit about the different things that can go awry with wind systems. Sounds like there's a fair amount of maintenance involved. Can you describe that?
Maintenance is really only about a semi-annual affair where you need to drop the tower, make sure all bolts are tight, make sure your bearings are greased and your tail assembly is rotating freely, that your tower guy wires, if you have them, are functioning well. And it's more preventative than anything, but the truth is if it breaks, you're going to have the tower down to work on it, and that's a good time to take care of all those other ancillary issues as well. It is not maintenance free, unlike solar. You will both have to repair and inspect on a regular basis your wind turbine. I just treat it as a hobby. It's not a big deal. It's a few hours out of my life every year. I can deal with that.
What is the typical lifespan of a wind system?
Small wind, I would say between 5 and 10 years. And this is where the initial low cost of wind power per watt compared to solar is a bit misleading. That while solar is more expensive up front, if you factor service life into it, solar is a bargain compared to small wind. But it does not produce as much power right now as wind does. I would guess the very best wind turbines are maybe good for 20 years, but they will have to be periodically remanufactured for all intents and purposes, with bearings replaced, blades replaced, because even grit in the air will cause the blades to erode over time. The leading edge of the blade will just wear down. So eventually you'll have to replace your blades even if they don't fall off the turbine. It's not a carefree existence, but when the wind is howling, it's nice to know your batteries are charged.